Good morning, I'm Willow Bay.
And I'm Bill Ritter. This weekend, thousands of mountain bikers are tearing it up in the breathtaking Utah desert. It's an annual ritual on wheels that is supposed to celebrate nature. But environmentalists say it's destroying the desert.
That's just one of the stories we'll have coming up on Good Morning America Sunday.
It's called the what? What's it called?
The Fat Tire Festival.
It's weird, I think, because, in this age of thinness, no, I'm okay.
They're fat tires because they're mountain bikes, right?
Of course,
okay.
Yeah. And yet, not that long ago, mountain bikers were considered something of environmentalists, right? Because they were out there enjoying nature.
In part, that's because 20 years ago, there were a couple hundred of them, and today there's something like over 100,000 of them, 140,000, something like that.
Thousands of them are in Utah right now, and environmentalists say they are wreaking havoc on the desert, and we're going to go out there. Bill Redeker spent some time in Moab, and he's going to join us for a look at this recreation versus conservation battle. We also have a story moving from recreation to procreation, right?
That's right, because one of the big stories this week was an amazing breakthrough in the treatment of infertility. Researchers in Atlanta report the birth of twins conceived from human eggs that had been frozen. It's an advance that could make it easier for women to have babies even after menopause, because before this, you could freeze embryos, but not unfertilized female eggs. So we're going to find out about the options that this opens for women. You don't have to pay attention to that anymore.
Yeah,
apparently.
well, maybe not. Maybe not.
Just freeze those eggs while they're young and fit.
Plus, think of the new ways you can have babies, Honey, take the eggs out of the freezer, I'll be home in 10 minutes. Something like that?
Yeah.
No, okay. All right, we're moving on to another story that's kind of weird. We have a bit of the bizarre this morning, no pun intended.
We do.
We are going to meet a man who does something weird to horses, and that's all I'm going to say right now.
He's got horses and demons and things like that, and he's actually right outside.
Well, one of the men, the man who's going to introduce us to
That's
the man,
true.
our correspondent George Chickarone is outside. George, good morning. What you got there?
Hi, guys. This is my friend Siberia. He may look timid enough, but some say there might be some evil spirits lurking within. At least one gentleman down in Lexington, he's making a living doing horse exorcisms on thoroughbred racehorses. And we're going to go down and sit in on a bone-chilling session a little bit later on.
He was giving us the evil eye there, George.
Wow.
I know,
Horse exorcism, huh, George?
What do you think, huh?
Head spinning and all that stuff?
Call the doctor.
This is a guy, George, before you go, this is a guy is a Methodist minister who speaks what?
He speaks Hebrew.
He speaks Hebrew when he does the exorcism.
Well, that's it all
Because horses
depends.
respond better, though.
He's speaking Hebrew right now. Look at that. All right, we'll check in with you a little later, George.
Yeah.
All right, all that coming up in our show, but first we're going to get a little of the morning's news headlines. President Clinton is back home this morning following a week-long visit to Latin America. Now, everywhere he went, the president made the case for free trade and for environmental protection. And he made a point of highlighting recent improvement in the relations between the U.S. and its southern neighbors. ABC's Ann Compton filed this report before leaving Argentina with the president.
This week at the tomb of one of Latin America's heroes, the President of the United States offered the respects of his people, a scene the White House claims could never have taken place 5 or 10 years ago. Once torn between military dictatorships and leftist revolutionaries, Latin America has been transformed by democracy.
Todo está chévere in Caracas.
Some anti-American sentiment still lingers. It erupted on the president's final night in Buenos Aires. But tranquility prevailed most of the week, especially in the pristine altitudes of the Andes Mountains, where all the talk of pollution and global warming seemed oddly out of place. The environment was but one of the popular themes back home that President Clinton adapted for a foreign setting. There was something very familiar about the style of this trip as well as the substance. Diplomatic formalities such as courtesy calls on parliaments were rare. The important events were far different. President Clinton and soccer sensation Pele rallied with kids from a model school in the slums of Rio de Janeiro, exactly the kind of event that is a staple of Clinton travel at home. He breezed through a town hall meeting, one of his favorite formats from campaign days. Mr. Clinton has always said, foreign policy is important because it's an extension of domestic policy. Now his trips have begun to look domestic too. In the next year alone, President Clinton has decided to travel overseas more than ever before, crossing 5 continents. He will include an historic trip to China, India, and Pakistan, and a sweep across Africa. Ann Compton, ABC News, with the president near San Carlos de Bariloche, Argentina.
The president returns home to some new developments of the campaign finance scandal. According to the Los Angeles Times this morning, China decided to spend $2 million to influence American politics last year. Now, the paper says the FBI knew about the plan and warned Congress and the White House, but investigators have been unable to prove any illegal contributions were made, they say, because of a deliberate effort to hide the money trail.
The makers of Tylenol are going to put new warning labels on their product. Apparently, too much of Tylenol's active ingredient, acetaminophen, can cause possible liver damage and even death in small children. New labels for infant Tylenol should be on the shelves in 6 to 7 weeks. The new Guggenheim Art Museum opens to the public in Bilbao, Spain today. The museum was inaugurated yesterday by King Juan Carlos amid tight security. Days earlier, police foiled an attempt by Basque separatists to bomb the modern structure, which they've called a symbol of cultural imperialism. They also object to the cost of the new building, $160 million. Local officials hope the museum will be the cornerstone of urban renewal in this troubled area north of Madrid.
In GMA Sunday sports news, there was a time when baseball in Florida meant only spring training. Now, of course, it also means World Series. And after Game 1, the Florida Marlins lead the Cleveland Indians in the Fall Classic. Florida's rookie pitcher, Livan Hernandez, is the youngest ever to win a series opener. The 22-year-old has now won all 3 of his postseason games. The high point of the game for the Marlins came in the 4th inning when Cleveland's Oral Hershiser gave up back-to-back home runs. This one to Moises Alou, who knocked in 3 runs, and then moments later, bammo, Charlie Johnson puts one out over the left field wall. The final score, 7-4. Game 2 in Florida is tonight. Now, the sports scene in Florida has changed dramatically over the past few years with the addition of Major League Baseball, NBA basketball, and NHL hockey. The man responsible for most of that change joins us this morning from Pro Player Stadium in Miami. He is Wayne Huizenga, owner of the Marlins. Good morning, Mr. Huizenga.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Fine, congratulations. You must be very happy this morning.
We are. Thank you very much.
And I understand you have quite a day this morning with 3 of your pro teams playing.
Yeah, it's very unusual. We have a hockey game that starts at 1, and the Dolphins play Baltimore today at 4 o'clock, and then 7:30 tonight back here at Pro Player Stadium for the second game of the World Series.
When you first bought this club, Mr. Huizenga, there were those who criticized you, or worried at least, that you were trying to cater only to the upper crust of Florida, and with such a large minority population, especially in South Florida, they were worried that this was going to only cater to the rich down there. Surprisingly, I guess to a lot of people, the minorities have come out tremendously as fans for the Marlins. Does this surprise you at all?
Oh, no, that's been our target audience all along. We never planned to cater just to the rich. I don't know where that rumor got started, but you can't run a sports team catering to the rich. And, we need all the fans, rich and not so rich.
Well, of course, it does cost a lot of money to run sports teams. You're aware, obviously, of all the reports and rumors and speculation about your intent to sell the team. Are the Marlins making it to the World Series changing your plans to sell the team at all?
Well, it's something we have to take a look at. We've gotten a lot of phone calls from business community and a lot of phone calls from different politicians in town asking us to reconsider. And so after the series, we'll sit back and talk to some people, and then we'll make our final decision.
Okay. Well, Mr. Huizenga, thank you for joining us. You have the highest payroll in the National League, and apparently it's paying off. Good luck in Game 2 tonight.
Well, we're not quite the highest, but we're getting close.
All right. Well, congratulations anyway.
Hey, thanks a lot.
All right. See you later. Wow.
All right.
All right, Will.
Well, finally, police are wondering about the priorities of some bank robbers in Toledo, Ohio. 3 banks have been broken into over the last 3 weeks. The only thing the criminals have touched is the gumball machines. In fact, there have been 7 gumball capers in the last 3 weeks. The thieves either take the change out of them or they just take the whole machine. Police say they have no suspects and no idea what's really going on.
I can imagine what's really going on. I wonder if the gumball has like that special dye that the money has, so they eat the gumball and red ink spurts up. What do you think?
I don't know. They'd probably be caught by now if that were true.
That's a good point.
Caught red-tongued instead of red-handed.
Very good. When GMA Sunday returns, will women finally be able to ignore their biological clocks?
We'll have the latest breakthrough in treating infertility, freezing eggs to make babies. We'll be back. A major advance in the treatment of infertility this week. Researchers reported the birth of twins from an egg that had been frozen. It was then thawed, fertilized in a laboratory, and then implanted into a 39-year-old woman who had already gone through menopause. If women have the option of freezing their eggs for use later in life, it may make the ticking biological clock a thing of the past, and it could give women more control over their futures.
And I think that anytime we have new options for women, and certainly new options in terms of when they can choose to bear their children, or if they have greater control over that, I think it's a good thing.
I'm in my 30s now, thinking about having a family, and time's running out. It's a good idea.
I think it gives the girls a chance to have a better career, a longer career, and maybe even choose their husbands more carefully.
I think it would allow one to spend more time dating casually, not sort of get into every relationship that one gets into thinking, is this the one, is this the person that I'm going to have children with?
I mean, historically, men have been able to marry younger women when they're older and have kids when they're in their 60s or 70s, which has never been an option for women.
If by 35 I don't find the right person, I'd like to wait for that right person. So if I could have the option of freezing the eggs and having a child with the right person, maybe in my early to mid 40s, it's something I would consider.
Well, joining us this morning is Judy Norsegan, co-author of Our Bodies, Ourselves, a landmark women's health book that for nearly 25 years has encouraged women to take greater control of their health care. Also with us here in New York is Deborah Wilburn, deputy editor of Working Mother magazine. Her readers are committed to balancing families and careers. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Deborah, let me start with you. Are your readers, how are they going to respond to this news?
I think they're going to be excited by it because it does give a woman more control over her overall career and life and her decision to have children. What we're seeing a lot of right now is women in their late 30s and early 40s who put off starting their families to get themselves established, and they're having trouble conceiving.
Now, what happens to a woman's career when she decides to have children? She normally takes a break from her job and then...
Well, not all women, of course they take some time off after childbirth, but at least half of all women go back to work within a year. But for those who take time off, their earnings never really catch up to a woman who has stayed in the workforce.
And might that happen, might it be easier for them to catch up if they defer childbirth until a little later in their career?
Well, certainly once they're established more, they've built up their experience and their salaries, I don't think the drop will be as great.
So the upshot is this is a good option for working women to have?
It's a very good option. It gives a woman much more control over her life and the passages of her life. Yes, definitely.
Okay. Judy? I know that Our Bodies, Ourselves take a somewhat critical look at the medical community and women's health care. What's your reaction to this advance?
Well, as with many technologies, the significance has been grossly exaggerated. First of all, many women can delay childbearing and use the eggs they've got in their bodies and not risk anything substantially problematic. This is being oversold to women, and we fear that it will further medicalize women's experiences with pregnancy and childbirth. We have to remember that we don't know a great deal about what the possible risks might be to freezing an egg and then waiting till some point in the future. We also have to realize there's a lot of money to be made in technologies like this. Already a company is proposing that an already pregnant woman might be able to freeze her fetus and then reanimate it at some point in the future. They're working on this technology and see that there might be a market for it. Most of us hope that women will realize that there's a very small number who stand to really benefit from this. For example, a woman who has cancer and may be undergoing substantial chemotherapy, she may want to freeze her eggs because of the damage that might be done to her eggs while she's undergoing the chemotherapy. But most women, I think, don't stand to gain anything from this. We've not demonstrated that at all.
But I guess I don't get it. We keep hearing about our biological clocks ticking and that our chances of conceiving children are much better when we're younger and our eggs are younger. Why shouldn't women take advantage of a breakthrough like this?
Well, the truth is that transition occurs over time and gradually. It's no magic number where suddenly your eggs are bad. And certainly a woman who's in her early 20s might be in better physical shape overall than a woman in her very late 40s. But the transition occurs gradually, and women who are basically healthy don't have much to worry about, except possibly for the fact that we live in an environment that's very toxic and polluted. And that affects our whole bodies, not just our eggs. So I'd be concerned about paying attention to the environmental quality with respect to all of these issues, not just our eggs.
So in general, we should just be taking better care of ourselves and not be racing out the door to take advantage of the latest technology. Does it worry you that this is an advance that is available, if it becomes widely available, to wealthy women or well-insured women?
Well, yes, as with other reproductive technologies, mostly the well-insured and the well-to-do will have access and other women won't. There's an irony here in that some of these technologies are double-edged swords, and we're going to find out later that there may be problems we don't fully understand now, and it's those women who've taken, in quote, advantage of them that will bear the brunt of this. In the end, I think we need to spend much more time on the things that make ourselves live in healthier communities, and it's not just about personal efforts, it's about making sure that our workplaces are safe, that women don't have to work in settings that, say, might endanger their eggs or their reproductive organs in any way.
Okay, Judy.
And men, too, for that matter.
Great. Well, Judy, Deborah, thank you. Clearly, two different opinions on this subject. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
And when Good Morning America Sunday returns, the battle in the desert, recreation versus conservation.
Good Morning America Sunday is brought to you by Vacuum Folgers.
This weekend in southeastern Utah, they are burning rubber at the Fat Tire Festival. It's an annual gathering of mountain bikers in the desert outside of Moab. With its stunning scenery and rugged terrain, Moab is a mecca for mountain bikers and other lovers of the great outdoors. But as ABC's Bill Reddick reports, environmentalists say all this love is hurting the area's fragile ecosystem.
Definitely one of the meccas of mountain biking, and we love to come here once a year.
There's no more diverse terrain than Moab. I mean, you've got everything here.
And sometimes it seems everyone enjoying one of America's most spectacular sights, Arches and Canyonlands National Parks in southeast Utah. But when does use become abuse? Pat Shea is the new director of the Bureau of Land Management.
Just in the period of less than 20 years, you've had a 1,000-fold increase.
That's right, from 140 mountain bikers a year to 140,000 a year.
I'm concerned as the director of the BLM that we try to educate people, we try to minimize that kind of impact.
Shea says the most serious impact is created when bikers and hikers stray off the trail, leaving behind tire tracks and footprints that break through a thin crust on the desert floor, destroying something called cryptobiotic soil, a protective layer that prevents erosion and provides nutrients for plants.
People just run right up the sand dune to shoot their photo. And what used to be entirely covered with small oak plants is now dying in a literal sense.
Trails are clearly marked. Trespassing signs have been posted nearly everywhere. But too often, they are ignored. These tourists seem completely oblivious to the damage they are creating. It will take nature at least 25 years to recover.
Park officials say most recreational users are careful and conscientious. But the sheer number of visitors, plus a mindless few troublemakers, can be disastrous for these delicate archaeological sites.
170 years ago, explorers Lewis and Clark marveled at the beauty of Eye of the Needle Arch on the Missouri River in Montana. This summer, vandals knocked off the top of the sandstone arch. Millenniums of natural history destroyed in minutes. And that's not all. Rock art, left behind by American Indians in the Southwest, has been defaced and covered by graffiti. 800-year-old petroglyphs and pictographs no longer tell a story.
You can see the panel on the right is very pristine. However, as you look towards the left here, Someone was able to reach this area and apparently with a wire brush and a weak acidic solution virtually wiped it out.
And so the ultimate impact then is what?
Well, it certainly takes the soul out of the site and it takes our heritage away from all of us.
In the last 5 years, acts of vandalism and outright theft of priceless artifacts have increased 120%.
As a matter of fact, every site we know of in the park has been looted.
The number of visitors to our national parks and federal lands has soared. Last year, more than 265 million people sampled and sometimes trampled these natural treasures, creating a difficult challenge for the Park Service and the Bureau of Land Management.
Probably one of the most important things is education, getting accurate information out to our visitors. Things like staying on existing roads and trails, staying in designated campsites.
But if that doesn't work, Americans could be faced with less access to the parks they treasure. Higher entry fees, more fences, mandatory reservations. It may be the only way to save these unique lands.
And ABC's Bill Redeker joins us now. Good morning, Bill. You mentioned some of the things the government could do to stop vandals and bicyclists going off-road and motorhomes and cars and whatnot. Is there anything more stringent that they could take? Any action more stringent?
Yeah, frankly, the bikers are the least of their concerns. The real villain out there, if you will, are four-wheel drive vehicles and cars. At Yosemite, they're starting already to restrict access by mandatory reservations. And at the Grand Canyon, they take visitors out by trams, trying to keep the cars out of the park. And someday, they may even require people to walk to the Grand Canyon. Can you imagine that?
Can you imagine that? And limit cars, make shuttle buses available and everything else. Get the engines out of there.
To lower the impact of pollution and also the tire tracks and also just the crowding and the potential for accidents.
You like rock and roll, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, we're going to talk about the Rolling Stones on this show when we come back in just, about a minute. Good Morning America Sunday. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us. You were rocking, weren't you?
Yeah, that was good.
Willow was rocking out here. The Rolling Stones on the road again. Willow likes it. They are performing to sold-out crowds more than 30 years after their first album. In fact, the Aging Rockers are one of this year's hottest concert tickets.
They're not the only thing that's getting better as they get older, right? Is that how you do that? I don't want to offend any old folks out there.
You just put me on the arm, aren't you? I got it.
Well, you know what I mean, Dana?
Yeah, I do.
What's going on?
We're all getting better, aren't we, Willow? We're all getting older and better.
Well, should we introduce you? Dana Kennedy with Entertainment Weekly.
Entertainment Magazine, right?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I'm so well known now, we don't need that.
Yeah, right. Dana.
Dana, you actually went to the Rolling Stones
and you were supposed to go and you didn't go. I know, you're too tired now. But no, it was a wonderful show, and everyone says, oh, they're all aging and desiccated. And they are kind of older and desiccated, but they're still really cute, and Mick can still completely strut and fret his hour upon the stage, his 4 hours upon the stage. It was wonderful. I loved it.
Did you party with Mick?
No, I didn't. Actually, I'm not that well connected. I'm not that well known yet.
But, I mean, the Rolling Stones are not necessarily unique in this regard. There's a bunch of sort of aging
Fleetwood Mac's out there on the road, Bob Dylan, David Bowie, and they're all like the hottest tickets. People are still going to see them. And it's not just people our age and older, it's even the younger people.
And there is, if we can make a tie in here, some connection to the 70s here. I mean, we have all these, the Fleetwood Mac, certainly a big band of the 70s.
Huge.
And movies coming out involving the 70s.
Yes, The Ice Storm already out with Sigourney Weaver, and also a new movie, which is my favorite movie of the year. LA Confidential was my favorite. This is my new favorite, Boogie Nights, which is about the porn industry, but don't think it's weird. It's a sort of a metaphor for life in the 70s with Mark Wahlberg, Burt Reynolds in a star-making turn again. It's so great.
Burt Reynolds.
He's wonderful. It's such a good movie.
I mean, what is this, nostalgia for the past or something?
You know, I would argue that it's not nostalgia. I think baby boomers have just taken the culture with them. I'd be mad if I were 25 years old these days, because it's like we don't want to let our past go. So it's not nostalgia. It's like we want to just keep it coming with us.
But it was like such a me decade, the 70s, right? All this emphasis on the individual and self.
Oh, well, exactly. That's why we still have it with us.
Oh, I see.
But young people are enjoying this too, right? It's not just like old folks like us who are.
Yeah, I mean, the people that are buying CDs are not all just the 45-year-olds. I mean, the group of people that buy CDs are younger, so they like it too. But they don't have the same legends that we all created.
Stick around. We're going to see you a little later in the show. Okay?
Yes.
All right.
All right. Good Morning America Sunday continues right after this.
And I like you included old people. You included.
Right. I figured I had to. Well, in this half hour, we're going to meet two men with rather, what would you say, unusual careers.
Remarkable careers.
Remarkable
yeah,
careers?
I'll say remarkable.
All right. Well, one of them makes baseball bats for a living, not just any bats, of course. Stan Oliver is one of 14 official bat makers for major leagues, but his bats are the only ones that are handmade. He makes them one stick at a time. It's all about the grip down there and the weight down here. And
you know about this stuff, obviously.
Sure. I'm a batter from way back now.
Yeah, our Steve Fox took a look at how these sticks are made, and we're going to talk to him. Also, a man by the name of Dr. Mitchell Bedford. If you haven't heard of him, you will today. He spends his days, believe it or not, exorcising horses. Not exercise, exorcising. He is a Methodist minister who speaks, what does he speak to the horses?
Hebrew.
Hebrew to the, he supposedly frees these horses.
Yeah. Is that what he says?
Yeah, something like that. Frees the horses from demons. He's sort of a real-life Ghostbuster for the equestrian set, and we're going to meet him coming up right after Sticks by Stanley, right?
Yep. But first, after a week in Latin America, President Clinton is back in Washington today, where after more White House tapes were released this week, calls for an independent counsel to investigate campaign fundraising are louder than ever. Cokie Roberts is in Washington, and she joins us now. Good morning, Cokie.
Willow, I think we need that exorciser here. Does he do people too?
Yeah, well, that would help, actually. That would help a lot of us. Cokie, what's the story? There's the new tapes this week. Anything interesting on them?
Well, what's interesting is a variety of things. One is just seeing the unseemliness of political fundraising. Day in, day out, the President of the United States meeting with these people and trying to, make nice to them to get their money. But also, Republicans will say that there is evidence on these tapes of the President breaking campaign finance laws, taking taxpayer money, to agreeing to spending limits in return for taking that taxpayer money, and then getting around the spending limits by running the party campaign out of the White House that was really to his benefit. That's a hard case to prove, but it's one Republicans are certainly trying to make.
So definitely ugly, maybe illegal. But my sense is that the investigators are also, the issue that they're really hanging on to at this point is, why did the White House wait so long to release them?
Well, that is something that you, again, will hear a difference of opinion on. The White House says, and we will be talking this morning, actually for the first time on this week, to Rahm Emanuel, the president's senior advisor, and we'll hear what the White House's answer to the question of why so long on the tapes. But the Republicans, again, are very suspicious of why they have not come out. And Senator Fred Thompson, the Senate committee chairman who's investigating this, has a time limit on his investigation, and he thinks that the White House was just trying to stonewall him and run out the clock. Congressman Henry Hyde, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, this week called in Janet Reno, the Attorney General, and had some harsh questioning for her about why not name an independent counsel, especially now that these tapes have been revealed.
They are really keeping up the heat on her, Cokie. Are they going to prove to be victorious in this one, do you suspect?
Well, I think that she is insistent that she will go with her advisors from the Justice Department. We'll be talking to Congressman Hyde this morning. And I tell you, one of the things that I find most interesting is that the Attorney General now says that any decision that she makes on this subject will be signed off on by the FBI Director, Louis Freeh, and he has reportedly been much more eager to name an independent counsel and been much more suspicious of the White House. So we'll see how that all plays out.
All right, Cokie, thank you very much. As always, we'll be watching later on this morning on This Week right here on ABC.
Good to be with you, Willow.
Thanks, Cokie. GMA Sunday continues right after this.
In the Sunday forecast, it will be mostly dry with sunny to partly cloudy skies over the western two-thirds of the country. The Great Lakes will see a few showers, and a storm system off the East Coast will continue to produce rain over the mid-Atlantic states. Now, the Midwest, Northeast, and the Rockies will see highs in the 50s to 60s today. In the Southeast, temps will climb into the 60s and 70s, and along the West Coast, highs will range from the 50s in the north to the 90s in the desert Southwest. Now, for more on your local weather forecast, check out abcnews.com, on America Online, or on the World Wide Web. Good Morning America Sunday's weather report is brought to you by the U.S. Postal Service. And we'll be right back. We actually have a sports segment this morning. Because 1997 seems to be the year of the underdog, at least in the baseball world. Now, forget the New York Yankees or the Orioles or the Braves. This year, the pennants won't go to any of those dynasty teams. Instead, the story this year is the fact that the Florida Marlins are in the World Series for the first time. And this morning, we have a story about another kind of upstart in the baseball leagues. This one makes bats. Here's Steve Fox.
It is in the ash forests of the Catskill Mountains of upstate New York that 40-year-old Stan Oliver finds the raw materials that he uses to live out a dream based on his two lifelong passions, woodworking and baseball.
Watch that baby, way over the green monster.
Today, working out of a small shop right next to his house in Jeffersonville, New York, Stan earns his living hand-carving baseball bats.
I prove it bat at a time. I take each bat very seriously.
Others are taking his bats seriously as well, including Major Leaguers
That's a rocket.
Brian Jordan of the St. Louis Cardinals, Vinny Castilla of the Colorado Rockies, and rookie sensation Scott Rowland of the Philadelphia Phillies. Future Hall of Famer Ozzie Smith occasionally used a stick by Stan before he retired.
I have a good eye-hand thing going, and I can scallop the bat by eye and get very close every time.
But you're making this for major leaguers who have exacting specifications.
Yes.
They'll know if you're off by an ounce, and you're doing it by feel?
It's a little bit of an art. It's a craft, but I got that art thing going too.
2 years ago, Stan quit his job as a factory worker and went into the bat-making business full-time. He hopes to sell 4,000 to 5,000 bats this year.
We're making it. We're doing okay.
Your husband hasn't gone batty on you?
No, he has not gone batty. I get asked that quite often, though.
Me and my wife weighed the pros and the cons, and we thought it's just once in a lifetime chance.
There are only 14 companies authorized by Major League Baseball to make bats. Stan's is by far the smallest, and the only one that does it the old-fashioned way, all by hand. He turns out about one an hour. It starts with the right piece of wood. For a Major League bat, one with no more than 7 grains per inch.
A few of the grains, the harder the bat, the better the pop.
And the straighter the grain, the less likely the bat will break. Plus, Stan figures out which end is the heaviest.
You're looking for weight. One end will weigh more than the other, and by feeling it, you'll determine which end's going to be the barrel versus the handle.
Once he's picked the right wood, Stan puts it into the lathe and begins to carve out a bat.
What's the advantage of your wood?
Well, the cut may be the same, but that machine can't pick it up. It can't shake that bat. That machine doesn't actually contour that handle. You know, my hand makes that shape, and you talk about fit like a glove.
After each bat is carved, Stan burns his trademark and motto into the barrel.
This is where you're telling them it's got a home run in it.
Well, this is where you are alleging it as home run after home run.
During the summer, Stan often leaves his home and family to make a 5-hour drive south to Philadelphia. Whenever the Phillies play at home, he sets up a stand in Veterans Stadium to sell his sticks. Prices range from $25 for a Little League bat to $35 for a pro model. Stan guarantees each buyer at least 1 home run per bat, a promise that Phillies third baseman Scott Rowland found you could take to the bank, or at least to the ballpark. Rowland hit 4 of his first 5 home runs this year using a stick by Stan.
The feel that I have is that it's my bat. It's the one that I had him make, and it feels, it's flared right here at the end, which is how I want it, a little skinnier handle, and it has the head on it that I like.
Former Major League star Hal McRae is now Scott's batting coach.
Never get rid of a hot bat, never put down a hot bat, and you take very good care of your hot bat. It's special.
If it works, I'm going to go to the plate with it. That's the bottom line.
That ball's hit to deep right center field. Back they go. It is gone.
Who knows? One day this former factory worker who struck out on his own may end up hitting it big in the business of bats. But for now, he's proud to be a small part of the game he has always loved.
That's what they say. That guy could have hit it out with a broomstick. I said, but that was my broomstick. That's what I tell him.
This is Steve Fox for Good Morning America Sunday.
And this is what a stick by Stan looks like. The only man who makes baseball bats by hand. We're going to get Willow to try one of these in the batting cage after the show. When GMA Sunday returns, who are you going to call when your horse is possessed? Well, you call the equestrian exorcist. We're going to meet him when we return. Stay with us. Superstition is certainly no stranger to the racetracks. For years, bettors have crossed their fingers, rubbed their lucky rabbit's feet, thrown logic to the wind, all in the hopes of increasing their chances of winning. But it turns out fans are not the only ones who sacrifice good sense to improve their odds. Our special correspondent, George Chickarone, found out just how far some racehorse owners are willing to go.
That's Dr. Mitchell Bedford leaving his old Kentucky home on his way to an emergency call.
Going to make a house call. Doctor, that's pretty much what I think.
Well, think again.
We're going over to see a horse that needs a little help.
Veterinarian, wouldn't you say?
No, not quite. You see, this doctor is a horse exorcist.
Doctor Mulkuth,
Oh no, you're kidding.
Vega Vera, Vega Dula, Leolam.
I've seen the Tooth Fairy, but I've yet to see the Exorcist, and I'd like to see it.
Well then, everybody, stay tuned. The good doctor believes that somehow evil, lawless spirits can work their way into a racehorse, thus keeping it from performing at its peak on the racetrack. And apparently he's not the only one who believes it, as for the past 15 years, dozens of horse owners have come to him for his, shall we say, special brand of stable side service.
I'll be invoking a series of God forces. And then I speak directly to the spirits, the lawless spirits as I like to call them, and tell them I want them to leave this horse alone.
He says once his job is done and the bad horse spirits are gone,
they're able to fulfill their maximum potential.
Okay. Now, Bedford claims to have worked on some pretty well-known horses in his day, but can't talk about it as it's all part of the deal.
You try to drive out the lawless spirits, they're able to interfere with the horse's breathing, let's say, so that the horse just simply can't function effectively when it's on the track. And they're off.
Fingerbuster here once again finished in third place. That's where she's finished her last 4 races.
There may be just some reason why she can't go the distance.
So her owners have come here to Lexington, the racehorse capital of the world, to ask Dr. Bedford to rid their thoroughbred of any demon spirits. And you think it might work?
I hope so. I think so. I hope so. I know it can't hurt her.
We're not going to see any pea soup here or anything, are we?
Well, this is always a risk. If you come into contact with a really powerful spirit, let's say the devil, you might be in serious trouble.
Yeah, great. Well, armed with his Vajra...
It's a Tibetan exorcist tool.
And in an eerie corner of a darkened barn, with some looking on in disbelief, the exorcism began.
Shaddai Alakai, Shaddai Alakai, Almighty God of wisdom and understanding, I request that you open up the channels and force out the lawless spirits that he may run more efficiently. Vegadura, Vegadula, Leolam.
What about the people that think this is just nuts?
They like to use the word weird. Shaddai Alakai, Shaddai Alakai.
Well, aside from annoying some of the other horses, the animal's owner did notice a change.
She just settled right down. I've never seen anything like that.
So was this trick or was it treatment?
We bless you, horse.
The true test will come when the horse races again in 2 weeks. Until then, this exorcist job is done. And hopefully now Fingerbuster will, you guessed it.
He'll run like the devil.
Ah, that's a very good choice of words.
And you can say you saw it on Good Morning America Sunday first, right? George Chickarone joins us now. Interesting story, George. So let me get what he said. Shalai Olakai, Shalai Olakai. These are Hebrew words. Right. And Vegadera, Vegadula, Leolam. These are Hebrew words.
I have to bring Moses in here, but I think it's the kingdom, the power, and the glory is what it means. It's your basic exorcism is basically what he does. Not that I've been privy to a lot, but that's what he says goes on there. And he calls on all of the God forces to help him rid these evil spirits from the horses.
Success rate?
He says about 90%. But he kind of, well, he bets on a few of the horses afterwards. But he says you can exercise a nag and still have a nag, but you'll have a happy nag. So there's no guarantees that come with it, really.
And isn't that what we're all really interested in, having a happy nag?
Of course.
I mean, of course. Now, how much does this cost? The racehorse owners, of course, have a lot of money, so I assume it costs
Well, there's a lot of money, a lot of superstition, as you mentioned before, involved in it. And they get about $50 a pop. But you think about it, Fingerbuster is worth maybe $2,000. If he wins in 2 weeks, his rate goes up to $10,000. So $50, why not?
$50 is not much money. This guy makes a living doing this?
No, not anymore. Actually, he's retired. He deals with, as he says, the 3 H's, which are humans, horses, and houses. So if you have problems in either of those areas, he's the man to call.
Yowza. Okay, George, thanks. Stick around. We're going to talk to you in a minute. As soon as Good Morning America Sunday comes back after this. Stay with us. Interesting.
Good Morning America Sunday is brought to you by Cigna Healthcare.
This is a fun hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yep. Well, we've got just a couple of program notes. Later this morning on This Week with Cokie Roberts and Sam Donaldson, veteran political odd couple Robert Reich and Alan Simpson. And tonight on World News Sunday, a special look inside life on the USS Nimitz as it stands guard in the Persian Gulf.
And all this week, join Charlie Gibson and Lisa McCree on Good Morning America.
Monday on Good Morning America, NYPD Blues' Kim Delaney, Dave Barry, and Luciano Pavarotti, and an extraordinary group of women who turned the loss of a child into a gift of life. Monday on Good Morning America.
Well, our contributors have been having so much fun here with us that they've decided to stick around a little bit. Bill Redeker, Dana Kennedy, and George Chiccarone doing our first segment for us. Mm-hmm. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
Is this like the Capital Gang, sort of?
No.
Is it?
No.
We're funny, aren't we? Aren't
So,
we, Bill?
Yeah, we'll try.
I still haven't quite recovered from
the horse exorcist.
But he's a human exorcist too, so he would use those same like if Bill was acting out a little bit, we could get him in here to do a number.
We could bring him back. We could bring him in next week and see what happens. Yeah.
He didn't do anything to you, George.
No, I don't think so.
And racehorse owners really believe that this is going to improve
A lot of them do.
performance?
There's a lot of superstition. Like one thing I learned is you do not eat peanuts in a barn. I asked why, no one could tell me, but you don't do it. And that's a very big superstition.
I knew that.
Out west, I mean, Bill, you spent a lot of time out west. You have a home out there. Would people buy this out there?
Probably not. They're a little more pragmatic than that.
What would they really say?
Oh, come on. There's exorcism out on the West Santa Fe. Half those people are involved in stuff like that, right? I'm going to get letters now, of course.
No, what they're really concerned about out there is the economy this week. I mean, we're paying attention to all of this news about the president and his tapes and so on and so forth. I don't think they care a good whit about it. What they really care about is what Alan Greenspan has to say, because they're expanding businesses out there. And of course, this is the 10th anniversary of the stock market crash.
So out west, they're really, because we always think, oh, this is just like a cover of the New York Times, Wall Street Journal kind of thing. Nobody really cares about Alan Greenspan.
They all have their computers and they're plugged into the internet and they know exactly what's going on.
And the economy versus the environment, huge issue in the West, right?
And a lot of them, frankly, support festivals such as that bike festival because it builds the economy. And Moab used to be a uranium mining town. That went by the boards and now they're into biking or any other recreational pursuit. Tourism is huge in the West right now.
It is interesting. Pedal bikers used to be environmentalists.
Yeah, I think still a lot of them are, and it's those few that go off trail that wreck it for the rest of them. It's like anything else.
You didn't go off trail, did you? I'm sorry.
Not me.
No.
Are you kidding?
But also, in fact, the numbers. I mean, if there were still 140 of them, as you point out 20 years ago.
It's part of the economy again, right? I mean, as the economy expands and people have more leisure time, more money, they're all out there. I mean, that's a lot of people in a small town. It's only a town with 6,000 people.
The person with the most fun this week, though, was Dana Kennedy, who got to see the Rolling Stones, did not party with Mick Jagger or Keith Richards.
Come on.
I
used to. In my younger days, of course I did.
But now
they're
that
all
you're
married
older,
now.
You have to be home earlier, right?
I do indeed.
And what was it like? What was the scene like?
It was fantastic. As I said before, the two of them are just great. Keith Richards and Mick Jagger, they look old, but they still sound great, and they just jump around on stage. And it worries me, though. Can we still, all of us, can we still keep listening to music and jumping around? Are we going to do this when we're 60?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Rock and roll's here to stay.
I'm so bummed I didn't go.
I know.
I can imagine. I went to see them when I was 17 years old, and I thought they looked really old then. I remember being completely horrified, thinking,
It's only a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I'm ancient to Willow.
And they look sort of the same now. That's like they always look dull. That's the key thing. They always look dull, so it's the same.
It's all that dancing around. And Rod Stewart's an older guy. He still looks good. You know, Bob Dylan does not do a lot of dancing, so he looks a little weathered. Neil Young does not do a lot of dancing. He looks a little.
So you think that's the key?
I think dancing around. Look at Tina Turner, for crying out loud.
I mean, do you ever go home and do the risky business thing and dance around your apartment with the music on?
I have kids. I do dancing in my underwear all the time. Hey, thanks for joining us, and we'll look forward to having you guys all on next week, right? All right.
Yeah. See you next week, everyone. Thanks. Come on, do you do that at home?
Dance naked?
You know you do. We didn't say naked.
Yeah,
exactly.
Actually, no, with kids,
but I don't have kids, and I still do. But can you do it forever, though, is my worry.
Sure.
Then I'm not worried.
Dancing in his underwear.
I love it.
Oh, you shouldn't see it.
Did you like this bat story? Here, look at this. This is pretty good.
It's nice and shiny, too.
I thought Louisville Sluggers were the big bats. I'm surprised about this.
Well, but this guy's, a small maker. His uncle was Ken Boyer with the St. Louis Cardinals.
He's so young, that guy. That's how he'd be exercising his head. Older guy.
Yeah, very young. And he gave up his job, and now, look, he's like 4,000 bats maybe he'll sell.
This glaze was so shiny.
Yeah, it's got a shine.
It's like,
Also, this
but
invitation.
at $35 a bat, can you really make a living?
If he sells 4,000, that's $120,000. So
$50 in exorcism is the same thing, right?
You think he sells?
You can exercise our worship.
Good Morning America Sunday has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source. ABC News, now always on.